This is Dr. Steve with Rockwall CPR, and what a save, the first edition. Stories of successful CPR, a skill everyone must learn. So here we go. Sometimes being a hero is simply doing what has to be done in the moment, and that was the case for Elisa Oglesby when she performed CPR on her cousin in her car seat. The 14-year-old rising freshman at West Iredell High School and her cousin Chloe were on the way to a medical center when Elisa saw her cousin wasn't breathing. She was scared, but she began performing CPR on the infant. A 14-year-old rescued her infant cousin. How wonderful is that? Does your 14-year-old know CPR? Do you? The next story, bystanders honored for using CPR, saving a man's life after he collapsed at a park. So what happened here? Jerry Paris's life was saved by a pair of bystanders who knew just what to do when he fell into cardiac arrest. The two men and first responders who rescued Paris were recognized in an event in April of this year. So here you go. Bystanders rescued this man in a park. How wonderful is that? It was an intense 10 minutes, but eventually they could see the color return to Paris's face. 10 minutes of CPR, and they rescued him. Another story. Washington County, Virginia deputy performed CPR at business to save a life. So here you go. He was the first to arrive on the scene following a rescue call. The person was not breathing, and he performed CPR immediately. He continued CPR until he was relieved by EMS. Due to his efforts, a life was saved. Here you go. Another story. Hero in the throes of a massive heart attack known as the Widowmaker, when his neighbors, who happened to be a nurse practitioner and a firefighter EMT, sprung into action. So he was in the throes of a massive heart attack. He crumbled onto his hands and knees on his neighbor's porch, and luckily his neighbors knew what to do as they were well trained. So they started to do CPR, and they did it non-stop CPR compressions for 14 minutes before getting a pulse. Let's say that again. Non-stop compressions for 14 minutes before getting a pulse. Never give up. And what happened 2 minutes later? His heart stopped again, and they managed to get him back a second time. And finally, the last story, and by the way, these are stories for a 1-week period of time. A teacher is recognized for life-saving CPR action on a student. This teacher was also the band director. He was quick to act when the student suddenly collapsed on the school's practice surface during band practice. Now, all band instructors in the state of Texas must be certified in CPR. Also important for parents to know, not all teachers are mandated to know CPR. Only physical education teachers, coaches, band instructors. All other teachers are not required to know CPR. This is something you may wish to bring to your school boards. The student stopped breathing, prompting Purdom to immediately begin administering CPR until the student began breathing again and other school personnel and paramedics arrived on the scene. But it was the initial quick action that saved this student's life. So please learn CPR.